The familiar green mermaid logo of Starbucks that usually promised comfort, caffeine, and community now seemed to mock me as I sat alone in the corner booth of a 24-hour location at 2:15 on a Wednesday morning, realizing that my routine late-night study session had become something far more sinister than a simple coffee shop visit. I had been using this particular Starbucks as my go-to study spot for over 6 months, taking advantage of their extended hours and free Wi-Fi to complete my graduate coursework in an environment that felt safer and more welcoming than my cramped apartment or the sterile university library. The coffee shop had always represented a sanctuary where I could focus on my academic work while surrounded by the comforting sounds of espresso machines and quiet conversation, a place where the worst thing I expected to encounter was an overpriced latte or a crowded seating area during peak hours. But tonight was different. Tonight, the warm lighting and cozy atmosphere had been replaced by an oppressive tension that made every shadow between the tables feel threatening. As I tried to concentrate on my laptop screen, I became increasingly aware that I was being watched by someone who had been sitting at a nearby table for over an hour without ordering anything or engaging in any normal coffee shop activities. The man's attention was focused entirely on my activities, and his presence in the nearly empty store during the overnight hours suggested intentions that had nothing to do with caffeine or late-night productivity. My name is Rachel, and that night taught me that Starbucks is not just America's coffee sanctuary. It's a hunting ground where predators and criminals use the accessibility, social atmosphere, and predictable routines of coffee shop culture to identify and approach vulnerable victims who trust that their daily caffeine rituals will remain safe and predictable. Ever wondered why some people suddenly stop using certain Starbucks locations as workspaces? Ever questioned why certain customers seem paranoid about working alone during off-peak hours? Comment below if you have felt uncomfortable while studying or working alone in Starbucks locations and sensed that someone was watching you with intentions that had nothing to do with coffee or productivity. Because tonight, I'm sharing 3 true accounts that will make you question every assumption you've made about coffee shop safety. These aren't exaggerated stories or attempts to damage the reputation of a legitimate business. These are real experiences from real customers who learned that when you frequent coffee shops, especially during off-peak hours or in isolated locations, you can encounter situations and people that transform familiar commercial environments into places where your safety and security are threatened. Amanda Foster was a 24-year-old freelance graphic designer who regularly used a 24-hour Starbucks location in downtown Portland as her primary workspace during overnight hours. Taking advantage of the coffee shop's extended operating schedule and reliable Wi-Fi to accommodate her irregular work schedule and her preference for productive late-night creative sessions when distractions were minimized. Amanda had been using this particular Starbucks location for over 8 months and had developed a comfortable routine that allowed her to complete client projects efficiently while enjoying the ambient atmosphere and caffeine that supported her creative work. The Starbucks location was situated in a busy commercial district that included other 24-hour businesses, providing what appeared to be a safe environment. Amanda's work routine typically involved arriving at the Starbucks around 10 p.m. and working until the early morning hours, using the quiet overnight period to focus on complex design projects that required sustained concentration. Amanda carried professional equipment, including laptops, design tablets, and other tools that were essential for her freelance work. But during the second week of November 2022, Amanda began to notice that she was being watched during her work sessions by a man who appeared to be conducting surveillance of her activities rather than engaging in normal coffee shop behaviors or legitimate business activities. The man would arrive at the Starbucks shortly after Amanda and would position himself where he could observe her work. Amanda's concern about the watching individual escalated when she realized that the man was not actually doing any work or consuming coffee shop products, but was instead using the Starbucks as a base for observing and potentially following her activities. The man would arrive without work materials and would spend hours watching Amanda while making minimal purchases. Share this video if you've ever noticed someone in a coffee shop who seemed to be watching other customers rather than engaging in normal coffee shop activities, because what Amanda discovered about this stalker's tactics proved that some predators use the predictable nature of work routines and the social atmosphere of coffee shops to identify and pursue victims who are focused on professional activities. The surveillance behavior became more obvious and threatening when the man began to follow Amanda outside the Starbucks, tracking her movements to her car and apparently gathering information about her vehicle and her route home. Amanda realized that the man was using her predictable work schedule to conduct systematic stalking that extended beyond the coffee shop environment. Amanda's attempts to vary her work schedule and use different Starbucks locations were partially successful in avoiding the stalker. But the man seemed to be conducting broader surveillance of Amanda's activities and was able to locate her at alternative coffee shops and during different time periods. The stalker's persistence indicated experience with stalking behavior. The situation escalated when Amanda discovered that the stalker had been gathering information about her freelance work and her clients by observing her computer screen and overhearing her phone conversations during her work sessions. The stalker's intelligence about Amanda's professional activities suggested planning for harassment or interference. The stalking behavior reached a crisis point when the man began to approach Amanda more directly during her work sessions, initially making casual comments about her design work, but gradually becoming more personal and intrusive in his questions about her clients, her income, and her living situation. Amanda realized that she was dealing with a sophisticated stalker who was using her work routine as an entry point for comprehensive surveillance and harassment that could escalate to assault, robbery, or worse. The stalker's knowledge of her professional activities and his persistence indicated experience with targeting victims. Amanda's response to the stalking situation required her to work with local law enforcement, Starbucks management, and building security to document the harassment and implement protection measures. Amanda's cooperation with the investigation led to the stalker's identification and arrest, revealing that he had been targeting multiple women who used coffee shops as workspaces. The investigation revealed that the stalker had been operating in multiple Starbucks locations throughout Portland, using coffee shops as hunting grounds to identify women who appeared vulnerable due to their late-night work schedules and their focus on professional activities that made them less aware of potential threats. Amanda's experience taught her that Starbucks locations could expose customers to stalking and harassment from predators who use the predictable nature of work routines and the social atmosphere of coffee shops to identify and pursue victims. But if you think individual stalkers represent the most dangerous threat that Starbucks customers can face, wait until you hear what happened to Marcus in Los Angeles. Because sometimes the most terrifying coffee shop experiences involve discovering that the employees you trust to serve your coffee and protect your workspace are actually using their positions to conduct criminal operations that put innocent customers at risk of identity theft and financial fraud. Marcus Chen was a 31-year-old software engineer who regularly used a Starbucks location near his apartment in Los Angeles as a meeting place for client consultations and as a workspace for his freelance programming projects, taking advantage of the coffee shop's professional atmosphere and reliable internet connectivity to conduct business activities. Marcus had been using this particular Starbucks location for over 2 years and had developed a comfortable routine that supported his freelance business and his professional networking activities. The Starbucks location was situated in an upscale commercial area that attracted professionals and business people who used coffee shops as informal meeting spaces. Marcus's business routine typically involved scheduled client meetings during afternoon and evening hours, with additional time spent working on programming projects that required focused concentration and reliable internet access. Marcus carried valuable equipment, including laptops, tablets, and other technology essential for his software development work. But during the third week of August 2021, Marcus began to notice unusual activities among the Starbucks employees that suggested they were conducting operations that had nothing to do with coffee shop management and appeared to involve illegal enterprises that took advantage of the coffee shop's legitimate business operations. Marcus's technical background and experience with business operations made him particularly observant of the employees' activities, and he quickly recognized patterns that indicated the staff was using their positions at Starbucks to conduct illegal operations that exploited the coffee shop's customer base and business environment. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you've ever suspected that coffee shop employees were accessing your personal information or conducting suspicious activities while you worked, because what Marcus discovered about this employee conspiracy proved that some criminal organizations infiltrate coffee shops to exploit customer trust and gather valuable business and financial information. The situation became more concerning when Marcus realized that the employees were using their access to customer information and their positions of trust to gather intelligence about customers' business activities, financial status, and personal information that could be used for criminal purposes. Marcus's investigation of the employees' criminal activities revealed that the staff was part of a larger criminal organization that specialized in targeting business professionals and freelancers who used coffee shops as workspaces and meeting locations. The criminal organization had developed sophisticated methods for infiltrating coffee shop operations. The employees' criminal activities included installing surveillance equipment in the coffee shop, accessing customer devices through compromised Wi-Fi networks, and conducting systematic intelligence gathering about customers' business activities and financial information. The criminal organization's use of the Starbucks location represented a serious threat to customer privacy. Marcus's discovery of the criminal activities put him in immediate danger as the corrupt employees became aware of his surveillance and began to view him as a potential threat to their illegal operations. Marcus was approached by employees who made it clear that his knowledge was unwelcome. The situation escalated when Marcus discovered that the criminal organization was using information gathered from Starbucks customers to conduct targeted attacks against business professionals and freelancers throughout the Los Angeles area. The organization had been using the coffee shop as a recruitment and intelligence gathering center. Marcus's attempts to document the employees' criminal activities and report them to law enforcement were complicated by the criminals' control of the coffee shop environment and their ability to monitor customer activities and communications. Marcus ultimately worked with federal law enforcement agencies to provide evidence of the criminal organization's activities and to expose the corruption that had infiltrated the Starbucks location. Marcus's cooperation led to a comprehensive law enforcement operation that resulted in multiple arrests. The investigation revealed that the criminal organization had been operating in multiple Starbucks locations throughout the Los Angeles area, using coffee shop employees and infrastructure to conduct identity theft, credit card fraud, and other financial crimes that generated millions of dollars in illegal revenue. Marcus's experience taught him that Starbucks employees could be corrupted by criminal organizations that used coffee shop operations as covers for illegal activities, and that customers needed to be aware of the potential for employee misconduct and criminal exploitation. But even employee criminal conspiracies seem manageable compared to what happened to Jennifer in Chicago. Because sometimes the most sophisticated threats that Starbucks customers face involve criminal organizations that use coffee shops as coordination centers for dangerous illegal activities that put innocent customers at risk of exposure to violence and criminal enterprises during what should be routine study sessions. Jennifer Walsh was a 26-year-old medical student who regularly used a Starbucks location near her university campus for late-night study sessions, taking advantage of the coffee shop's extended hours and quiet evening atmosphere to review medical textbooks and prepare for examinations that required sustained concentration. Jennifer had been using this particular Starbucks location for over 18 months and had developed efficient study routines that supported her demanding medical school curriculum. The Starbucks location was situated in a college area that attracted students and academics who used coffee shops as study spaces. Jennifer's study routine typically involved arriving at Starbucks around 7 p.m. and working until closing time, using the quiet evening hours to focus on complex medical concepts and examination preparation. Jennifer carried valuable study materials including medical textbooks, laptops, and other educational resources. But during the first week of October 2023, Jennifer began to notice that the coffee shop's atmosphere changed dramatically during the final hours. Before closing time, with unusual activities and people appearing in the store that suggested the location was being used for purposes that had nothing to do with coffee service. Jennifer's investigation of the unusual activities revealed that the Starbucks location was being used as a meeting place and coordination center for criminal activities that took advantage of the coffee shop's late-night hours and the reduced oversight that characterized closing time operations. Hit that like button if you've ever noticed suspicious activities in a coffee shop during closing hours and wondered what was really happening behind the scenes. Because what Jennifer discovered about this criminal operation proved that some organizations use Starbucks locations as bases for dangerous illegal activities that put innocent customers at risk of exposure to violence and criminal enterprises. The situation became more disturbing when Jennifer realized that the criminal activities were being conducted with the knowledge and participation of some Starbucks employees who were using their positions to facilitate illegal operations and to provide security and coordination for criminal enterprises. Jennifer's discovery of the criminal activities put her in immediate danger, as the people operating the illegal enterprises became aware of her presence and began to view her as a potential threat to their operations. Jennifer was confronted by individuals who made it clear that her knowledge was unwelcome. The criminal operations appeared to be sophisticated and well-organized, with multiple people working together to use the Starbucks location as a base for illegal activities that generated significant revenue while avoiding detection by corporate management and law enforcement agencies. The situation escalated when Jennifer discovered that the criminal activities involved dangerous drugs and weapons that posed serious risks to anyone present in the coffee shop during the illegal operations. Jennifer realized that her routine study activities had exposed her to criminal enterprises. Jennifer's attempts to escape from the dangerous situation and report the criminal activities were complicated by the criminals' control of the coffee shop environment during closing hours and their ability to monitor and restrict customer movements and communications. The situation reached a crisis point when Jennifer was directly threatened by the criminal organization and was warned that her continued presence in the coffee shop and her knowledge of their activities would not be tolerated. The threats were credible and immediate. Jennifer's escape from the dangerous situation required her to use her knowledge of the coffee shop's layout and her understanding of the criminals' operational patterns to avoid detection while reaching a location where she could contact law enforcement for assistance. Jennifer ultimately managed to contact law enforcement and provide detailed information about the criminal activities, leading to a major investigation that exposed the illegal operations and resulted in multiple arrests of people who had been using the Starbucks location as a base for drug trafficking and other criminal enterprises. The investigation revealed that the criminal organization had been operating in the coffee shop for over 8 months, using the legitimate business operations to conceal their illegal activities while putting innocent customers at risk of harm from dangerous materials and criminal associates. Jennifer's experience taught her that Starbucks locations could be infiltrated by criminal organizations that used coffee shop operations as covers for illegal activities, and that customers needed to be aware of unusual activities during closing hours. These 3 accounts from Starbucks customers across America reveal a disturbing truth about commercial coffee shop environments. America's most popular coffee chain can become a stage for encounters that challenge everything we think we know about the safety and predictability of spaces where millions of people gather daily for coffee work and social connection. Amanda's encounter with a systematic stalker in Portland proved that some predators use the predictable nature of work routines and the social atmosphere of coffee shops to identify and pursue victims who are focused on professional activities and less aware of potential threats. Marcus's discovery of employee criminal conspiracies in Los Angeles demonstrated that some criminal organizations infiltrate coffee shops to exploit customer trust and gather valuable business and financial information. Jennifer's exposure to closing-time criminal operations in Chicago revealed that some organizations use Starbucks locations as bases for dangerous illegal activities that put innocent customers at risk of exposure to violence and criminal enterprises. The most chilling aspect of these accounts isn't just the individual dangers themselves, it's the realization that these threats specifically exploit the trust, accessibility, and social atmosphere that make Starbucks valuable to millions of customers, turning familiar workspaces into environments where predators and criminals can identify and attack victims who assume their routine coffee shop activities will remain safe. Amanda had no warning that her freelance work routine would attract the attention of a stalker who used coffee shops to conduct systematic surveillance of women who appeared vulnerable due to their late-night work schedules. Marcus had no indication that his business meetings would expose him to corrupt employees conducting criminal operations designed to exploit customer trust and financial information. Jennifer had no clue that her medical school study sessions would expose her to criminal organizations using coffee shops as coordination centers for dangerous illegal activities that put innocent customers at risk of violence. If you're currently using Starbucks locations for work study or business meetings, especially during off-peak hours or in unfamiliar locations, if you've noticed suspicious behavior from other customers or employees, or if you felt uncomfortable while working alone in coffee shop environments, trust your instincts and remember that maintaining awareness could be the difference between a productive work session and a dangerous encounter. Ring that notification bell if these stories have made you more conscious of coffee shop safety. And remember that understanding these risks and warning signs could help you avoid becoming a victim of predators and criminals who use the accessibility and social atmosphere of coffee shops to identify and attack customers. The next time you're working or studying at Starbucks, especially during evening hours or in unfamiliar locations, remember these stories and maintain awareness of your surroundings, other customers and employees whose behavior seems inappropriate or suspicious. Sometimes the most dangerous part of your daily coffee routine isn't the caffeine addiction or the expense. It's the moment when you realize that someone has been watching you, studying your patterns, and planning to use your predictable coffee shop activities as an opportunity to harm you. Before you go, check out the playlist in the description for more true coffee shop horror stories that could save your life. Because in the end, the most important thing you can order at any coffee shop is awareness of potential dangers. And no perfect latte or productive work session is worth risking your safety in situations where predators use coffee shop environments to identify and attack victims. Comment below if these stories have changed how you think about coffee shop safety. And remember that the best coffee shop experience is one that caffeines your productivity and gets you home safely. Even if it means staying alert, trusting your instincts, and prioritizing your safety over convenience or routine work habits. Stay safe out there. And remember that coffee shops should remain spaces for productivity and community, not hunting grounds for predators who exploit the trust and accessibility that make commercial coffee culture valuable to millions of customers.